Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lashback. I'm Natalyan.
And I'm Phoebe. Today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. What is it, Nat?
So, well, we can talk about what we think it is, right? But I've been doing this as a bit of a theme for our episodes. Is I've just been quickly googling it. So I'll just read you what it says here, and this is actually from the American Psychological Association. So, American firm of that, so stating that people with imposter syndrome experience an ongoing fear that they're going to be found out or unmasked as being incompetent, and here's an interesting point, or unable to replicate past successes. How
Perfect for
interesting is
second
that?
album.
I can believe you said that. I mean, we're musicians, so a lot of people have had that. They have this big explosive album, and then it's like, oh, how can I do that again? And it's different the second time as well because they probably just did it with their passion and they organically did it a bit more, and then now it's the pressure. So I think that whole replicate past successes is key to this, not just in the music industry but in everyday life, every type of career, is that you've done a great job here and then, oh, can I do it? Was that just luck or a fluke? So tell me what imposter syndrome means to you as Phoebe.
Well, I'm a psychologist, of course, by training, along with other things. It's kind of a contradiction because we think imposter syndrome means we're on our own, that we're the only one, we're not, rich enough, strong enough, male enough, whatever it might be. But actually, it's a very everybody thing. So when we're children, we see our parents as completely different to who we are. And we see them doing all of these things that we think we couldn't do because, in a really small example, they can reach the light switch and you can't.
Yeah.
And so we kind of go through life, like the Queen doesn't use the toilet, but we know the Queen uses the toilet, or like lots of things like they can do that, but I can't. That comes from being a child in a household of adults. That is literally everybody. That's the basis of imposter syndrome. And I think we carry that through into adult life if we're not aware of it, if we don't know that that's the thing. For me personally, I've been writing and performing songs for 25 years more actually, and
More.
every time at some point in my creative process of writing a song I think no one's going to want to hear this, and it's, I'll finish it because it's something for me that I do, and then I'll go gig it and I'll get a positive comment from one or two or more people. That was a great song, and I go, really? Oh, I just did that for me, and I hated playing it the first time ever. So and in my professional life as well, when I'm coaching executives, I'm not an executive. Sometimes I have to sort of G myself up to be like, right, I'm going to go talk to an actual chief executive about their emotions and how they're doing in their world. But I've never done what they've done. And then I have to remind myself that actually my coaching skill is what they want, not my experience. So it happens to us all, and it comes up all the time. I think it's important to be aware of it and to have strategies around not allowing it to inform your decisions and actions.
Yeah, exactly. And I experienced it this week. But I think there's a couple of things here. Imposter syndrome as an actual term is quite new. We experienced it before. What did we know that to be? And imposter syndrome can be a number of things. Obviously, lack of confidence, social, environmental scenarios, as you said, the way you were raised as well. You may have been raised one way versus another way. You may have been around a lot of experienced people, or educated people. You may be 30 years into your career and you've got so much experience, but you may not have that specific degree. I mean,
Yeah.
I find myself, we both have different lives in terms of different multiple careers. And in the music world, I'm still, I'm still dealing with imposter syndrome when it comes to songwriting, and I've got that album that I'm doing that needs to come out, and I need to just send it out. Every time I'm close to doing that, I think I'll hear another song that I think's fantastic, and I think, oh, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do that. You should just block that out, is what's going to work for me. But then in the business world, because I'm a project manager, program manager in technical experience management, change management, I find myself looking at people's LinkedIn, their resumes, their CVs, and seeing all the things they've done. And it'll either make me feel better because I'll say, oh, well, I've done way more than them, which you shouldn't do, but I find myself doing. Or it will be the complete opposite. And I'll think, oh, they've got, 4 degrees, an MBA, a master's in this, and they've, but they're like 10 years younger.
Yeah.
Right? So that imposter syndrome, but and I had an experience, recently where I put together this big strategy and I was concerned that it wasn't going to come across the way I wanted it to come across, and kind of lost a tiny bit of belief in myself, and it went swimmingly. And you actually said to me on WhatsApp when I messaged you that, I sent you a big voice note, and you said, that's imposter syndrome, Natalie. And I said, you're right. So the point you made about acknowledging it is so key, and understanding, when I was doing my Google searching, how do you overcome it? And I think one of the key facts is understanding that most people, I can't say all, but most people experience that. So expressing that and talking about that and acknowledging it is very key to overcoming that self-doubt. Right?
Something that comes up a lot, in conversations I have around songwriting at university, is, that those of us that are singers first, oh, I can't write songs, I don't play guitar well enough. Or I can't do gigs because I can't sing the high notes, or I'm not as good as Mariah Carey, so why would I try and sing R&B, or all of these sorts of things that are just stupid, really. And it's like what we were talking about last week, isn't it? Like compare and despair. It really is like the enemy of taking initiative, having a motivation, and I think, we're not children in a household of adults anymore. We are big in the world, and from my yoga studies and practice, I know that we are all one. We are all the same, whilst also being beautifully unique. So possible in the world, possible for me. Really, possible in the world, possible for me.
And I think that for me, thinking back again, going to our music life, I was always, raised to believe I was, everything I did was great, and I was praised a lot. So that's kind of helped with confidence and ability to be ambitious and stuff like that. But I remember going into the bigger wide world, leaving school, going to college. And college in the UK is in between school and university. So you have your 2 years in between, you do A levels, for example. And I did a performing arts A level. And I remember this so clearly. On the first day, everyone had to stand up and talk about what they've done. And I remember thinking, I haven't done, this person's been on the Brit Awards ceremony, this one's toured, this one's been on Grange Hill, the TV show, this one's been in music videos, and I thought, oh, I'm nowhere near as good. And which is really, and no one made me feel that way, that was completely myself. But then we had to do a showcase and sing. And I, in my belief, and according to other people, knocked it out the park, and everyone was like blown away, and it gave me my confidence back. But throughout my life, I still do that. And I'm getting better at that, but I still do that. Just because somebody's done X, Y, Z and you haven't, then it doesn't mean that you're not as valid in what you're doing, because everyone does have to start somewhere, right? Everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah, just get on with it.
Just get on with it.
It's a bit like us doing this podcast, isn't it? We've been talking about it for ages, and we were like, just do it. We know it might be rough around the edges.
Yeah.
We know that hundreds of other people are doing podcasts. We've been talking about this for a long time. Just get on with it. Press record and go.
Such a good point. Imposter syndrome is key to what we're doing here. We talked about this. We sat in WhatsApp calls, in a bar, on a beach. We went everywhere. We were talking about this, and we came up with the lashback concept. And we have belief in ourselves that we're talking about things that we think are, they're interesting to us, and we think that they'll be interesting to others. But then you start procrastinating and thinking, well, will anyone want to watch us on a podcast and see us and really care what we're talking about? And we made the conscious decision. Yeah, that's what we made the decision of. So that's about being aware. And we decided it's going to get better. It may be rough around the edges, but let's just do it. Even if one person enjoys it, right?
Yeah, it's funny you talking about doing a performing arts A-level. I didn't do that. I went and did, subjects that my teachers and spent a lot of time in my early 20s not really doing any music because I thought I'd missed the boat. Stupid girl. I'm not calling
Do you
myself
think you're
stupid. I'm
old?
sorry, I take that back. But you know, it's kind of it's been a life's work to sort of undo all of those things because I think our education system in the Western world, I can't speak for the Eastern world, has this sort of, well, if you're going to be a doctor, then you have to get A's at here and you're going to get this and then you have to get to the best uni. There's all these kind of notions of career paths and things, and like if you think you've missed the boat there, then well, that one's missed. So
Yeah, yeah.
stay an imposter around that one. And we were talking a lot about this last week about, following our hearts and our interests. And I think maybe imposter syndrome is a key component in this, actually. If you
I
don't
agree.
recognize that that's what you're doing, then, what I did in my 20s was I limited myself because I didn't know until I
Same.
studied NLP that possible in the world, possible for me. The only question is how. So you go and you say, well, so and so's done this. Rather than comparing and despairing, I'll never, you go, well, how did they do that? Let's go ask some
Yeah.
questions. And then you can take on from that what you want and make it your own and go and do the thing because you saw it, you wanted it, you can decide to figure it out. It would take some work, it might take some study, it might take some practice, but that doesn't mean it's not possible.
Yeah, I think another
Stunning
point that,
silence.
I think does, yeah, I think another point that fits into imposter syndrome is thinking I mean, I can talk from a personal perspective here, thinking that it has to be a professional career as well, right? So,
Yeah.
like I'm interested in this, but because I'm now in my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or whatever, it's just not going to be possible because I'm too old. And talking to your point about in your 20s limiting yourself, I totally did that. And I remember thinking that, especially around the 90s music scene of very, very young people, your Britney Spears and stuff, when you hit 21, 22, 20, you're over the hill. Missing the boat is a key term here that we need to kind of move past and know that the boat's still there and you can
No,
get on that boat.
build your own boat.
Build your own boat. Yeah, I
The
like
boat's
it.
gone. Sod it. Build your own boat.
It wasn't your boat,
It wasn't your
right?
boat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Love it. Love
build
it.
boat. And
Yeah.
there is, we're talking in fantasy. I can, for all the coaching clients I've had in the world, I know what some people might be thinking with us saying that, well, that's impossible for me, or I'd need a load of money, or I don't have the time, or I've got childcare, or I've got whatever. And this is where that kind of thing around expectation comes in. Essentially, just because that boat looked like that doesn't mean your boat has to look like that too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can create a life for yourself that is authentic to you and that works for you and all the other commitments and responsibilities and interests that you want to have. So, just talking about you and me are similar. We've got these sort of what some people might call sort of disparate careers. But for me, like being a coach, I work in the creative sector as a learning manager. I, write songs, I perform songs, I'm going to be in a play next year. There's loads of things that I do, and that they seem very different. But the one key component within all of those things is me, me being me, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. That's the key thing for me. I can't remember where I was going with that. Where did I start that off?
Well, I think just picking up on
What
that
was my
point, I
point?
think is really, really important is that, and again, for me, talking about like that, it's kind of segmented careers a lot of people struggle with, right? Which doesn't help the imposter syndrome because I've in more times than I can count when people ask me what I do and I'll say, okay, so I have this company and I'm a consultant, like project manager, program manager across these areas, which is technical, change, all those different components, and I'm also a professional singer. And they're like, how's that work? And something I have had is that, are you doing both those things? Because you're not good at one of them enough.
Jack of all trades, master of none kind of
Yeah,
thinking.
which is the worst. I
Rubbish.
do not like that phrase.
That
Yeah,
is
do not like that phrase.
absolute rubbish.
I do them both. Admittedly, one avenue will make more money than the other at certain points.
If money is the
Doesn't make them
intention.
exactly. But actually, no, it's not because of that. It's not because of that. And that doesn't help the imposter syndrome. And I mean, if you look at our CVs, our resumes for music of touring and TV shows and these fantastic gigs and shows and everything, what more do I have to do to not feel that way? And same with project management. I've been doing that for more years than I can count. I think I've been saying 18, but it's more like 20 now. I've forgotten the years I've aged. I do know what I'm doing. I do belong there.
I think also there's this thing, around like behavioral flexibility. So, if I only went down one road, like I think if I hadn't have limited myself in my 20s and I'd been just a singer, there's a lot I wouldn't have learned and a lot of things I might not have come across. I might have done. I kind of believe the universe brings you what you need to be brought to, but maybe I wouldn't have learned all of these things and I'd be in a bit of a silo. Whereas, I've written a whole load of songs that have come out of the fact that I went and studied yoga after serious illness and I went and refound my body and refound myself. And I've written all of these songs because of that yoga work. I think there's also an element within my songwriting that comes from the coaching experience that I've got. I've got perspective about the world. There's ways in which I go about my work in the cultural sector as a bit of an office bod, really. But because I'm a creative, I bring something else into that makes that job work better for me. I mean, I'm not just saying that. I get feedback around that. So it's like, all of these things match up into that whole kind of you as an authentic being thing.
They do.
Again.
They do. I mean, even doing this podcast series and you and me have done things, projects, and projects could be a music project, a business project, a podcast project. And, I'm very much taking that project management role and you're taking that, the video editing role. You've done a lot of social media with bands on tour. There's all these things feed in and it's part of my personality. And another thing I say as well is that, they're different parts of my brain, but they're merged at the same time. Right.
Yeah.
And, we've done our time. We do know what we're doing, but we absolutely accept and acknowledge and love the fact that we're still learning. I'm always going to learn. Every project's different. Everything's different, and I love learning. And I'm gonna continue to do that. And this podcast series is a new venture of ours. Actually, it is in the creative world, but we've not done a podcast before. We have our music career, you have your business career, I have my business career, and we've got this podcast career series venture adventure now. And I love it. And this is something that we're taking, seriously in the sense that it's something we are really pushing ourselves into. And we got over that imposter syndrome. I'm sure we still have those moments, but we decided to go for it. Hence why this topic came up.
I think it's portfolio career. I mean, that's been a word that's been bandied around a lot. And it's not like choose to be a doctor, choose to be a medic. Because even in those sorts of ways, people have specialisms. And then, it's great that this lawyer's coming here because they've got a background in human rights and now they're going to be working on that. Or, these interdisciplinary, I can't speak, interdisciplinary practice is the modern way, I think. If we are always siloed into different things, how are we ever going to foster understanding between each other? And I truly believe that understanding is very, very important for a happy and peaceful world. Yes, indeed. So, final thoughts. What are we saying here?
I think for me, and what's helped me, is understanding, acknowledging, being aware of imposter syndrome, and actually trying to get to the root cause of it. So for you, understanding that everybody has this, even people that you couldn't imagine, top leaders, the Queen, top leaders, people that are, you know, the best musicians on the planet who have done everything that they couldn't possibly feel out of place or have imposter syndrome. They do. They do. And we are no different. Humans are quite predictable creatures. We have emotions, and we have things that we have things that we're nervous about. And I think for me, what helps is talking about it, being aware that other people have that, but really getting to the root cause of why you feel like that. And that's definitely helped me. How about you, Phoebe?
Yeah, I think so. Understanding that everybody experiences most things you experience breaks down barriers, and maybe helps you reach out for help, maybe helps you go for something you thought was unattainable for you. I really do encourage everyone to go for what they want, as long as it doesn't hurt or harm anyone else.
Absolutely.
Caveat. And yeah, you know, let's live your life as freely and as authentically as you can. I say that in you words, but I'm note to self, talking to self
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, absolutely. We all do that.
Practice.
Yeah. So, you know, thanks for listening, everybody. Please let us know your thoughts on, have you experienced imposter syndrome?
Funny stories.
On that, funny stories, definitely funny stories. You know, let's make lightheartedness of this. It's a big topic. We could talk about it more. Let us know your thoughts. Give us some stories, and we'll definitely incorporate them at some point. So, thank you for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.